Welcome back, and thank you for tuning into Cheating Tales Lab. We appreciate every single one of you. We'd love to know, what part of the world are you watching from right now? Let us know in the comments. Now, let's dive into today's story. David Reynolds' muscles ached as he slid out from under the Mercedes-Benz he'd been working on for the past 3 hours. The digital clock on the shop wall showed 7:45 p.m., another 12-hour shift coming to an end. He grabbed the shop rag from his back pocket and wiped the mixture of sweat and grease from his face, leaving dark smudges across his weathered features. "Hey, boss." Tommy, the junior mechanic, called out from across the shop. "Mr. Harrison called about his BMW. Says he needs it by tomorrow morning." David straightened his back, ignoring the protest from his tired muscles. "Tell him it'll be ready by 8. I'll come in early to finish it." "You've been pulling doubles all week," Tommy said, concern evident in his voice. "Want me to handle it?" "I got it," David replied firmly. "Harrison's been bringing his cars here for 10 years. I know how he likes things done." At 32, David had earned his position as lead mechanic through pure grit and determination. He'd started as an apprentice, learning every make and model that rolled through the shop doors. Now, his reputation brought in clients from 3 counties over. The shop phone rang again. Tommy answered it, then held out the receiver. "It's Allison." David wiped his hands thoroughly before taking the phone. "Hey, babe." "David, I'll be late tonight." Allison's voice carried a hint of excitement. "We're finalizing pieces for the student exhibition, and there's so much to coordinate." "Again?" David checked his watch. "That's the 3rd time this week." "I know. I'm sorry. But this exhibition could really put our art program on the map. Mr. Cooper's been helping us arrange everything." David's jaw tightened at the mention of Ryan Cooper, the gallery owner who'd been spending an unusual amount of time at Allison's school lately. "Right. Cooper. The guy who's suddenly so interested in high school art." "Don't start." Allison's tone turned sharp. "He's been incredibly helpful. Not everyone sees art as a waste of time." "I never said." David cut himself off, taking a deep breath. "Never mind. Do you need me to save you dinner?" "No, I'll grab something here." "Don't wait up." The line went dead before David could respond. He stared at the receiver for a moment before hanging it up with more force than necessary. "Everything okay?" Tommy asked, pretending to organize tools nearby. "Fine." David's response was clipped. He grabbed his wrench and headed back to the Mercedes. "Lock up when you're done. I've got a few more things to finish here." As he worked, David's mind wandered to the early days of his relationship with Allison. They'd met at a mutual friend's barbecue 15 years ago. He'd been 27, already established at the shop, and she was a fresh-faced art teacher with dreams bigger than their small town could contain. Her family, especially her father, Judge William Parker, hadn't approved initially. A mechanic, he'd overheard the judge asking Allison once, "You could do so much better, sweetheart. What about that lawyer I introduced you to?" But David had proved himself through actions rather than words. When Allison's car broke down, he fixed it without charging her. When her mother Grace needed help moving furniture, he showed up with his truck and spent the whole weekend helping. When her father's prized vintage Corvette needed restoration, David worked on it personally, bringing it back to its former glory. The disapproval gradually turned to acceptance, then genuine affection. Judge Parker started inviting David to his weekly poker games. Grace would bring homemade meals to the shop, saying David reminded her of William in his younger days. Hardworking, honest, and devoted to family. The house they lived in now had been his grandmother's final gift to him. She'd raised David after his parents' divorce, teaching him the value of hard work and integrity. The modest 3-bedroom home needed work when they first moved in, but David had renovated it himself, room by room, creating their perfect starter home. He'd been saving every extra dollar for Allison's gallery dream. Weekend shifts, holiday overtime, even doing private repair jobs from home, all to help her open her own space. They'd finally put down a deposit on a small commercial property downtown. Their marriage had weathered its share of storms. 2 devastating miscarriages had left them both emotionally raw. David's mother's death 3 years ago had sent him into a dark place, but Allison had been his anchor. When Allison struggled with depression after the second miscarriage, David had taken time off work to care for her, ensuring she ate, attended therapy, and slowly found her way back to painting. Or at least, that's what their marriage used to be. David finished with the Mercedes well past midnight. His hands were steady as he cleaned his tools, but his mind was churning. The changes in Allison had started subtly. First, it was the late nights at school. Then came the weekend workshops with the local artist collective. Her phone, once carelessly left around the house, was now always face down, passwords changed for privacy. He tried talking to her about it, but she'd accused him of being controlling. "I'm finally doing something for myself," she'd snapped during their last argument. "Why can't you be supportive?" The drive home was quiet, his truck's headlights cutting through the darkness. The house was dark when he arrived, no sign of Allison. David checked his phone, no messages, no calls. He showered mechanically, washing away the day's grime. The bedroom felt too empty, too quiet. He grabbed his pillow and headed to the living room couch, turning on the TV for background noise. Sleep eluded him. Around 3 in the morning, his phone buzzed. A text from Megan, Allison's best friend. "Can we meet tomorrow? It's important." David stared at the message for a long moment before replying with a simple "okay." When Allison finally came home at 3:45 a.m., she tried to sneak in quietly. David remained still on the couch, eyes closed, listening to her careful footsteps. She paused in the living room doorway. "David," she whispered. He kept his breathing steady, feigning sleep. After a moment, she continued upstairs. The shower ran briefly, then silence fell over the house again. David opened his eyes, staring at the ceiling. Something was coming. He could feel it in his bones, like the moment before a car's engine seized, that split second when everything seemed fine, but you knew it was about to fall apart. Tomorrow, he'd meet with Megan. Tomorrow, he'd find out what was important enough to warrant a middle-of-the-night text. Tomorrow, maybe, he'd finally learn what was happening to his marriage. But tonight, he lay awake, a man who fixed broken things for a living, wondering if some things were beyond repair. The diner was nearly empty when David arrived the next afternoon. He'd scheduled his lunch break to coincide with Megan's free period. She taught English at the same high school as Allison. Through the window, he saw her already seated in a booth, nervously shredding a paper napkin. Megan jumped slightly when he slid into the seat across from her. Her eyes were red-rimmed, hands shaking as she wrapped them around her coffee cup. "Thanks for meeting me," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "What's going on, Megan?" The waitress approached, but David waved her away with a shake of his head. Megan took a deep, shuddering breath. "I can't keep quiet anymore," she said. "It's eating me alive, and you deserve to know." David's hands flattened against the cool surface of the table. "Know what?" "It's Allison," Megan's voice cracked. "She's having an affair." The words hung in the air between them. David's expression remained unchanged, but his knuckles whitened as he pressed them harder against the table. "With who?" "Ryan Cooper." Megan couldn't meet his eyes. "The gallery owner who's been helping with the student exhibition. They met when he came to speak to the art classes 3 months ago." David's voice was dangerously calm. "Tell me everything." They started spending time together after school, supposedly discussing the exhibition. Then he offered to mentor her, help her develop her portfolio. Megan's words tumbled out in a rush. "She says he understands her artistic soul in a way you never could." "I've tried talking sense into her, David. She's throwing away 15 years for a fantasy." "How long have you known?" Megan flinched at the steel in his tone. 2 weeks. I caught them together at his gallery after hours. She swore it was just a kiss, but..." She pulled out her phone, hands trembling. "I took pictures. I couldn't just let it happen." David looked at the photos. Allison and Ryan through the gallery window, locked in an intimate embrace. His wife's face tilted up to another man's, eyes closed in pleasure. "She's been talking about leaving you," Megan continued, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Says she's outgrown this small-town life. Ryan's been filling her head with promises, exhibitions in New York, connections in the art world. She's not thinking clearly." David pocketed his phone, his movements precise and controlled. "Does anyone else know?" "No, but..." Megan hesitated. "Ryan's wife might suspect something. I've seen her watching them at gallery events. David stood abruptly. Thank you for telling me. What are you going to do? What needs to be done? He placed a $20 bill on the table. Get yourself something to eat. You look like you need it. David, Megan called as he turned to leave. She's my best friend, but what she's doing is wrong. I couldn't live with myself if I didn't tell you. He nodded once, then walked out of the diner. In his truck, he sat motionless for several minutes, mind racing through options. Finally, he pulled out his phone and called his nephew, Jake. Uncle Dave? What's up? Remember that tracking app you showed me? The one that records messages? Yeah, why? I need it. Now. An hour later, David had the app installed on their shared iPad, the one Allison often used for sketching. He placed it carefully on her desk in the home studio they'd built together, making sure it looked untouched. The next 3 days were torture. David went through the motions at work, ate mechanically, and waited. On the 4th day, while Allison was teaching, he checked the app. The messages between her and Ryan made his stomach turn. Allison, I showed my portfolio to other galleries. They're impressed. I'm ready to leave this small-town life behind. Ryan, you were meant for bigger things, baby. That mechanic's holding you back. You deserve someone who can introduce you to the right people. Allison, David's sweet but simple. He'll never understand the art world like you do. Sometimes I look at him, and all I see is grease under his nails and limited ambition. Ryan, meet me tonight. I'll show you what real passion feels like. David read every message twice, his rage building with each word. The timestamps showed conversations late into the night, plans made while he slept alone, promises and declarations that made a mockery of their 15 years together. He drove to his lawyer's office that afternoon, requesting an emergency appointment. By evening, he had divorce papers drawn up, his assets protected, and a clear plan of action. At home, he waited. Allison walked in just past midnight, humming softly to herself. She froze when she saw him sitting at the kitchen table. David? Why are you still up? He placed his phone on the table, screenshots of her messages displayed on the screen. Anything you want to tell me? Color drained from her face. You went through my private messages? How dare you? How dare I? His laugh was hollow. You're fucking another man, and you're worried about privacy? It's not what you think. If you text him again, we're done. The words exploded from him, his fist slamming into the table. Allison's shock transformed into contempt. A sneer twisted her familiar features into something alien. If I want to message someone, I will. You can't stop me from pursuing my dreams. Ryan's opening doors you never could. David placed the divorce papers on the kitchen table. The same table where they'd shared thousands of meals, planned their future, comforted each other through losses. His hands didn't shake as he slid them toward her. I warned you. Now it's over. Allison glanced at the papers, then laughed mockingly. You're pathetic. Ryan says I have real talent. I won't let you hold me back anymore. Do you know what it's been like? Watching you waste your life fixing other people's cars? I want more than oil changes and tire rotations. Sign the papers. Gladly. She grabbed a pen from her purse, signature flowing across the dotted line. Ryan's already found me an apartment in the city. I'll have my things out by tomorrow. Take what's yours and nothing more. David's voice was ice. Try to steal from me, and you'll regret it. Are you threatening me? No, Allison. I'm promising you. He stood, towering over her. You want to throw away 15 years? Fine. But remember this moment. Remember that you chose this. She backed away from his intensity, bravado faltering. You can't intimidate me. I don't need to intimidate you. He gathered the signed papers. You've shown me exactly who you are. Now get out of my house. Allison fled upstairs, the sound of drawers opening and closing filtering down. David remained at the table, listening to his wife pack up their marriage like it meant nothing. When she struggled past him with 2 suitcases, he didn't offer to help. When she paused at the door, perhaps waiting for him to stop her, he stared straight ahead, face impassive. The door closed behind her with a final click. David sat in the dark kitchen until dawn, his grandmother's words echoing in his mind. Better to know the truth and hurt than live with a lie and lose yourself. Tomorrow, he would begin dismantling every piece of their life together. Tomorrow, he would show Allison Parker Reynolds exactly what happened to people who betrayed David Reynolds. But tonight, he allowed himself one moment of grief for the death of his marriage. One moment, no more. Then he stood, pulled out his phone, and began making calls. The war was just beginning. The next morning, David strode into Parker and Associates law firm, divorce papers in hand. The receptionist recognized him immediately. "Mr. Reynolds? Judge Parker is expecting you." William Parker's office breathed old money and tradition, with its leather-bound law books and mahogany furniture. The judge stood as David entered, his face lined with concern. "David, son, what's this about?" "My secretary said it's urgent." David placed the signed divorce papers on the desk. "I need you to witness these." William's hand trembled as he picked up the documents. "Divorce papers? There must be some mistake. Allison was just here yesterday, talking about her upcoming exhibition." "Read the evidence file," David said, sliding over a thick manila envelope. For 30 minutes, David sat in silence as his father-in-law reviewed the screenshots, photos, and detailed timeline of Allison's betrayal. William's face grew increasingly gray. "That lying son of a bitch Cooper," William muttered. "I knew something was off about him. Always too smooth, too practiced." He looked up at David. "Have you confronted them?" "Last night." "She's moved in with him already." William's fist clenched. "I'll talk to her. Make her see reason."
"No."
David's voice cut through the air like a blade. "She made her choice. Now she lives with it. 15 years of marriage meant nothing to her." David stood, adjusting his work jacket. "I'm not here for reconciliation, William. I'm here because you deserve to know the truth about your daughter. And because I need a witness for those papers." William slumped in his chair, suddenly looking every bit his 65 years. "You're still family, David. No matter what Allison's done. Family doesn't betray family." David headed for the door. "Tell Grace I'm sorry. She deserves better than a daughter who'd do this." The auto shop provided no escape. Every car reminded him of Allison. The Volkswagen she drove when they first met, the Toyota he'd helped her pick out for teaching, the BMW she'd recently started driving to match her new professional image. Tommy approached cautiously around noon. "Boss, there's someone here to see you." Allison stood by the shop entrance, wearing an outfit that probably cost more than a month's mortgage payment. "We need to talk." David wiped his hands slowly, deliberately. "Nothing to talk about. Don't be childish." She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "Ryan's lawyer will be contacting you about the gallery deposit. Since half of it came from our joint savings." "You mean the savings I earned working overtime?" David's quiet tone made Tommy retreat to the other end of the shop. "The money I saved while you were spreading your legs for your mentor?" Color flooded Allison's cheeks. "That's crude and unnecessary." "Know what's unnecessary? Coming here, to my workplace, looking for a handout." He advanced on her, and she backed up until she hit the wall. "You want money? Sue me. Want to talk? Call my lawyer. But don't ever come to my shop again. If you text him again, we're done." The words ripped from his throat, echoing off the metal walls. A few customers looked up from the waiting area. Allison glanced around, embarrassed by the attention. "Lower your voice," she hissed. "People are staring. Let them stare. Let them see exactly who you are." He grabbed a work order, scanning it casually. A cheating wife who threw away 15 years for a con man in an expensive suit. "If you text him one more time," he continued, voice deadly quiet, "if you try to contact me again outside of our lawyers, I'll make sure everyone knows. Your students, their parents, the school board. Everyone." Allison's face twisted with familiar mockery. "You're pathetic. Ryan says I have real talent. I won't let you hold me back anymore. He's already arranged meetings with galleries in New York." "Good. Go to New York. Go anywhere. Just get out of my sight." She opened her mouth to respond, but David had already turned away, walking back to the car he'd been working on. After a moment, he heard her heels clicking toward the exit. Tommy reappeared, holding a wrench like a shield. "You okay, boss?"
"Fine."
David slid under the car. "Get back to work." The day crawled by. At closing time, David sent everyone home and sat in his office, staring at his phone. A text from Grace lit up the screen. Coming over with dinner. No arguments. He considered ignoring it, but Grace Parker had been more mother to him than his own. Half an hour later, she walked in carrying enough food to feed an army. Eat, she commanded, setting up containers on his desk. Grace, eat first. Talk later. They ate in silence. Grace watched him with the same sharp eyes that had assessed potential witnesses during her years as a prosecutor. William told me, she finally said. About Allison. About Cooper. David pushed his plate away. I'm sorry. Don't you dare apologize. Grace's voice cracked. My daughter did this. My daughter betrayed the best man she'll ever know. She's still your daughter, and you're still my son. Grace reached across the desk, gripping his hand. Blood isn't always thicker than water, David. Sometimes family is chosen by character, not birth. David's throat tightened. I have to end this, Grace. Completely. I know. She squeezed his hand. Do what you need to do. Just remember, William and I are here. Always. After she left, David locked up the shop and drove home. The house felt cavernous, too big for one person. He walked through each room, noting Allison's remaining belongings. Her art supplies in the studio, her books on the shelves, her clothes in the closet. In their bedroom, his bedroom now, he opened her bedside drawer. Inside lay the anniversary gift he'd planned to give her next month. Keys to the gallery space, paid in full with his overtime money. David placed the keys in an envelope, wrote Allison's name on it, and left it on the kitchen table. Then he went to the garage, pulled out several boxes, and began systematically packing up every trace of his wife. By midnight, the house was cleared of her presence. The boxes sat stacked by the front door, ready for whatever moving company she sent. David showered, changed the sheets on the bed, and lay down in the center, claiming the whole space. Tomorrow would bring lawyers and paperwork. Tomorrow would bring gossip and pitying looks. Tomorrow would bring the start of his revenge. But tonight, in this moment, David Reynolds chose himself, and he would never choose differently again. The news of David and Allison's separation spread through town like wildfire. At the high school, Allison had already crafted her narrative, holding court in the teacher's lounge during lunch breaks. He couldn't handle my success, she told her colleagues, dabbing at dry eyes with a tissue. Every time I mentioned expanding my horizons, he'd remind me about the mortgage, the bills. It was always about money with him. David learned about her performance from Tommy's wife, Sarah, who worked as the school secretary. She's playing the victim, Sarah reported during an oil change. Says you tried to control her career, got jealous of her mentor. It's disgusting. Let her talk, David replied, focusing on the engine in front of him. But Allison wasn't just talking. She'd moved swiftly, emptying their joint accounts before David's lawyer could freeze them. 15 years of savings, including the gallery deposit money, vanished overnight. David's lawyer called with the news. She withdrew $127,542 yesterday morning. I'm filing an emergency motion, but don't bother. David's voice remained steady. Let her have it. Just make sure she can't touch anything else. The lawyer paused. That's a lot of money to walk away from. I'm not walking away. I'm choosing my battles. That evening, David received an unexpected visitor at the shop. A sleek BMW pulled into the lot just as he was closing up. A woman in her early 40s stepped out, her designer outfit at odds with the industrial surroundings. Mr. Reynolds? I'm Sandra Cooper, Ryan's wife. David studied her carefully. Come inside. In his office, Sandra declined the offered chair, pacing instead. I should have warned you sooner. I saw the signs, but I thought, I hope this time might be different. This isn't the first time? Sandra laughed bitterly. Ryan has a type. Talented women with big dreams and small opportunities. He swoops in as their mentor, their champion. Opens doors, makes promises. She pulled out her phone, scrolling through photos. Emily Watson, Rebecca Chen, Maria Suarez. All artists he discovered, all women he seduced and discarded. David leaned against his desk. And you stayed through all this? I had my reasons. Sandra's fingers twisted her wedding ring. Money, reputation, fear of scandal. But watching him destroy another marriage, she met David's eyes. Ryan's not just a cheater. He's a predator. He finds women with potential, uses their dreams against them. When he's done, he ruins them professionally. None of those artists work in the industry anymore. Why tell me this now? Because you're different. Sandra stepped closer. The others, their husbands either fell apart or lashed out blindly. But you're planning something. I can tell. David remained silent, waiting. I want in, Sandra continued. Whatever you're going to do to him, I want to help. I have access to his records, his correspondence, his dirty little secrets. Why should I trust you? Because I hate him more than you do. Sandra placed a USB drive on his desk. That contains proof of his previous affairs, including screenshots of him mocking the women he'd ruined. It also has financial records showing some creative accounting at the gallery. David picked up the drive. What do you want in return? When you take him down, and I know you will, I want advance notice. Just enough time to protect my own interests. If you're lying to me, I've spent 15 years married to a manipulator, Mr. Reynolds. I know better than to cross someone like you. Sandra headed for the door, then paused. One more thing. Check your wife's portfolio submissions to those galleries Ryan recommended. He has a habit of encouraging his conquests to borrow from others' work. After she left, David plugged in the USB drive. For hours, he read through Ryan Cooper's digital trail of destruction. Messages to his mistresses, emails mocking them after the affairs ended, financial records showing suspicious transactions. His phone buzzed with a text from Megan. You need to see this. Allison's posting about her upcoming exhibition. Says she's moving to New York with Ryan. David checked Allison's social media. Photos at gallery openings, her arm linked with Ryan's. Posts about finally being appreciated and leaving small-town limitations behind. Announcements about her debut exhibition, featuring works that would challenge provincial perspectives. The posts had hundreds of supportive comments, including several from her father. Judge Parker still believed his daughter was the victim, convinced the separation was just a misunderstanding. He'd left messages on David's phone offering to mediate, suggesting marriage counseling, refusing to accept the reality of Allison's betrayal. Grace was different. She still brought food to David's house, but her eyes held a new hardness when Allison's name came up. William thinks she's having some sort of crisis, she said during one visit. He says we should support her through this phase. And what do you think? David asked. Grace's hands tightened around her casserole dish. I think my daughter died somewhere between that first gallery opening and her last lie. I don't know this woman wearing her face. David worked longer hours, taking on complex repairs that required his full concentration. The physical labor helped quiet his mind, but the betrayal festered beneath his calm exterior. Every night, he reviewed Sandra's files, building a clearer picture of Ryan Cooper's operation. The gallery owner had a pattern. He'd find talented women in smaller communities, usually teachers or local artists. He'd praise their work, offer mentorship, dangle opportunities just out of reach. Once they were emotionally invested, he'd begin the seduction, subtle at first, then increasingly bold. The affairs followed a script: secret meetings at the gallery, promises of exhibitions and introductions to influential people, encouragement to break free from their restrictive lives. When the women left their husbands, Ryan would help them spend their divorce settlements on investing in their careers. The final act was always the same. Once the money ran out, Ryan would find flaws in their work. He'd suggest they needed more development, more training. Eventually, he'd end the relationships and use his connections to block their entry into other galleries. David read every case file, noting the patterns, the vulnerabilities Ryan exploited. He saved everything to a secure cloud drive, then began his own investigation. He contacted the former mistresses, promising anonymity in exchange for their stories. Some refused to talk. Others, like Amanda Torres, had nothing left to lose. He convinced me to quit my teaching job, she told David over coffee. Said I needed to focus on my art full-time. 6 months later, I was broke and blacklisted. Now I serve lattes to the same people who used to attend my shows. David recorded every conversation, documented every detail. At night, he added to his growing evidence file, building a case that would destroy not just Ryan Cooper, but the entire facade of legitimacy he'd constructed. The weeks passed. Allison's social media posts grew more frequent, more triumphant. She shared photos of her new apartment, paid for with their savings. She posted about gallery meetings, upcoming shows, her bright future in the art world. Judge Parker called again. "Son, please. Let's sit down and talk about this. Allison's just exploring her artistic side. She doesn't mean to hurt anyone. Has she told you where the gallery deposit money went?" David asked quietly. "That's just money. It can be replaced. Family is forever." "No, William. Family is earned." David hung up, then blocked the judge's number. He didn't block Grace. She kept coming by the shop, bringing food he didn't ask for, offering support he didn't know he needed. One evening, she arrived with tears in her eyes. "William's taking her side," she said. "Says I'm being too hard on her. 35 years of marriage, and he can't see what's right in front of him." David set down his wrench. "Give him time." "Time?" Grace's voice cracked. "While she spends your savings. While she parades around with that predator. She's my daughter, David, but right now, I can barely look at her pictures. The truth will come out," David promised. "Sooner than she thinks." After Grace left, David opened his laptop and began typing. Subject line: urgent. Student artwork verification required. He attached images from Allison's portfolio, then sent the email to every art teacher in the district. The responses started coming within hours. His phone lit up with a message from an unknown number. "Mr. Reynolds? This is Katie Chin's mother. We need to talk about my daughter's paintings." David smiled for the first time in weeks. The plan was in motion. Ryan Cooper had spent years perfecting his predatory pattern, but he'd never encountered prey that bit back. And David Reynolds was done playing victim. He picked up his phone and dialed Sandra's number. "Check your email. I'm sending you something interesting about your husband's new protege." The hammer was ready to fall. All David had to do was wait for the perfect moment to swing it. David sat across from Lisa Chun, Katie's mother, in a quiet corner of the local diner. Her husband James stood behind her, hands gripping the back of her chair. "We trusted her." Lisa's voice trembled as she spread out printouts from Allison's portfolio website. "Katie stayed after school for months, working on this series. Mrs. Reynolds, Allison, said she was submitting it to a student showcase." James tapped one of the images. "Then we see this. Our daughter's work, signed with another name, listed for thousands of dollars." David studied the paintings carefully. "You're certain these are Katie's?" "We have photos of her working on them. Videos of the process." Lisa pulled out her phone. "Katie documents everything for her college applications. Look at the dates." The evidence was damning. The timestamps on Katie's progress photos predated Allison's original works by months. "There are others," David said quietly. "Your daughter isn't the only victim." Lisa's eyes widened. "Other students? I need you to file a formal complaint with the school board. Are you willing to do that?" James leaned forward. "Why are you helping us?" "She's your wife." "Ex-wife," David corrected. "And I'm helping because it's right. Katie deserves credit for her work." After the Chins left, David drove to the Daily Grind, a coffee shop near the art district. Amanda Torres was waiting, her barista apron still on. "I brought everything," she said, sliding a folder across the table. "Emails, texts, gallery contracts, everything from when Ryan was mentoring me." David opened the folder. "Tell me how it happened." "I was teaching art at Lincoln High in Portland. Ryan came to judge a student show." Amanda's fingers shredded a paper napkin. "He said my work showed promise. Offered to feature me in his gallery, New Voices exhibition. I was so excited. I didn't see the red flags." "What red flags?" "The late-night meetings. The way he'd touch my arm when giving advice. How he always steered conversations toward my marriage, my frustrations." She laughed bitterly. "He said my husband was holding me back." Sound familiar? David's nephew Jake joined them, setting up his laptop. "I can archive everything digitally," he explained to Amanda. "Create backup copies, verify metadata to prove when things were created. For 2 hours, they documented Amanda's story. The pattern matched Sandra's other files perfectly. The seduction, the manipulation, the eventual destruction of her career. After I ran out of money, he said my work had lost its spark. Amanda's voice hardened. Suddenly, none of his gallery contacts would return my calls. My husband had already filed for divorce. I couldn't get teaching jobs because of the scandal. Ryan Cooper took everything from me. David handed her a business card. My lawyer will contact you tomorrow. We'll need your testimony. Will it make a difference?
Yes.
David's certainty sent a shiver down her spine.
It will end him.
Back at his office, David reviewed the growing evidence file. Jake had organized everything meticulously. Financial records showing Ryan's embezzlement from gallery partners, screenshots of him mocking his victims, proof of Allison's plagiarism. Sandra Cooper called around midnight. Ryan's getting nervous. He knows something's coming, but he can't figure out what. He's been shredding documents at the gallery. Let him. We have copies of everything. Allison's with him now. Sandra's voice dripped contempt. Planning their big move to New York. She actually believes he's going to make her famous. How's the school board investigation going? They're meeting tomorrow. Ryan's already trying to distance himself, telling people he had no idea about the stolen artwork. David smiled coldly. Good.
Let him run.
The next few days brought more victims forward. 3 former students produced proof that Allison had stolen their work. 2 of Ryan's ex-business partners shared records of suspicious transactions. Jake archived everything, creating an undeniable trail of evidence. David worked methodically, building his case piece by piece. During the day, he maintained his normal routine at the shop. At night, he coordinated with his growing network of allies, Sandra, Amanda, the angry parents, the cheated partners. Megan kept him updated on the school's reaction. They're putting her on administrative leave, she reported. The board's reviewing all her student exhibitions from the past 5 years. What's she saying? Playing the victim, as usual. Claims she was inspired by her students' work, that it's all a misunderstanding. Megan hesitated. David, she's scared. She knows this could end her teaching career. Good. David's voice was ice. She should be scared. He received a text from William Parker. What are you doing, son? These accusations against Allison. It's going too far. David didn't respond. He'd shown the judge copies of Allison's messages to Ryan, proof of her theft, evidence of her lies. If William chose willful blindness, that was his choice to make. Grace understood. She'd seen the proof herself, spent hours helping David organize testimonies from parents and students. It's not just about the affair anymore, she said. She betrayed every child who trusted her. The gallery opening was packed. Allison's debut exhibition had drawn collectors and critics from across the region. David watched from his car as Ryan Cooper played host, his arm possessively around Allison's waist. Right on schedule, Katie Chin's parents walked in, accompanied by 2 other families. David had arranged their invitations anonymously, ensuring they'd see their children's stolen work displayed under Allison's name. The confrontation was spectacular. Lisa Chin's voice carried across the gallery. That's my daughter's painting. We have proof. David didn't need to witness the chaos that followed. He'd arranged for a local reporter to be present, guaranteed front-page coverage of the scandal. By morning, the story would be everywhere. Respected teacher caught stealing student artwork. His phone buzzed with updates throughout the night. Megan, board called emergency meeting for tomorrow. They're suspending her pending investigation. Sandra, Ryan's in damage control, telling everyone he had no idea. Should have seen his face when the parents started screaming. Amanda, art community's talking. 3 other teachers came forward with similar stories about stolen student work. The next day, David watched the fallout from his office. The local news ran the story prominently. High school teacher accused of plagiarizing student artwork. Social media exploded with angry parents sharing side-by-side comparisons of their children's original pieces next to Allison's copies. Ryan Cooper's response was predictably swift and self-serving. His gallery issued a statement. We are shocked and dismayed by these allegations. Had we known the true origin of these works, we never would have agreed to display them. We are cooperating fully with all investigations. Allison's carefully constructed world crumbled within hours. The school board suspended her immediately. The exhibition was canceled. Galleries that had expressed interest in her work withdrew their offers. She appeared at David's shop just before closing, her designer outfit wrinkled, her face streaked with tears. "You have to help me," she pleaded. "Tell them it's not what it looks like. I can explain everything." David continued cleaning his tools, not bothering to look at her. "Like you explain the affair? This is different. My career is over if these accusations stick. Ryan says, ask him for help." David cut her off coldly. "Isn't he opening doors for you? Please." She grabbed his arm. "I'll lose my teaching license. I'll have nothing left." David removed her hand like he was disposing of something unclean. "You had everything. A husband who loved you. A family who supported you. Students who trusted you. You threw it all away for a con man in an expensive suit. I made a mistake." "No." David's voice was lethal in its quietness. "A mistake is ordering the wrong paint color. A mistake is burning dinner. What you did was betrayal. You stole from children who looked up to you. You mocked your family's values. You threw away 15 years of marriage for a lie." Allison backed away from his intensity. "What do you want from me?" "Nothing. You're not worth wanting anything from." David turned back to his work. "Get out of my shop. Don't come back. You're destroying my life." "No, Allison. You did that all by yourself." After she left, David sent a group text to his allies. Phase 1 complete. Ready for Phase 2. The pieces were in place. Ryan Cooper thought he could salvage his reputation by abandoning Allison. He had no idea she was just the first domino to fall. The real storm was still coming, and when it hit, it would wash away everything Ryan had built on lies and manipulation. David closed the shop, drove home, and reviewed his evidence files one more time. Tomorrow would bring new battles, new opportunities for justice. But tonight, he allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. Allison had chosen her path. Now she could walk it alone. The conference room at the Marriott buzzed with tension. David surveyed the gathering. Sandra Cooper, perfectly composed in designer black. Amanda Torres, nervously clutching her coffee cup. 3 former gallery partners. 5 devastated artists, and a dozen angry parents of students whose work Allison had stolen. "Thank you all for coming," David began, his voice steady. "You know why you're here. Every person in this room has been hurt by Ryan Cooper or Allison Reynolds." Sandra stood, distributing folders. These contain evidence of Ryan's pattern of manipulation and fraud. Financial records, correspondence, screenshots of him mocking his victims. Everything's documented. "Some of you have already shared your stories," David continued. "Others are afraid to come forward. I understand. Ryan's made a career of destroying people who cross him. He'll do it again," Amanda interjected. "He's already distancing himself from Allison, just like he did with all of us." "Not this time." David clicked through presentation slides displaying Ryan's history of fraud. "We have proof of everything. Gallery funds misappropriation, tax evasion, systematic harassment of artists, and now, knowingly displaying stolen artwork." Marcus Chin, a former gallery partner, studied the financial documents. "These transactions, he's been cooking the books for years. Our investors will want blood. They'll have it." Sandra's smile was razor-sharp. "I've been documenting his schemes since the second affair. Dates, amounts, witnesses. Everything the SEC needs to crucify him." David outlined the plan. They would release their evidence strategically, starting with an expose in the regional art magazine. Jerome Walsh, a prominent critic who'd been suspicious of Ryan's rise, had agreed to write the piece. "Once the article drops," David explained, "we file complaints simultaneously. SEC investigation, civil suits, criminal charges. Ryan's entire house of cards collapses at once." "What about your wife?" a parent asked. "She stole my son's paintings. She needs to pay too." "Allison's already finished," David replied coldly. "The school board investigation will end her teaching career. The plagiarism scandal will destroy any credibility in the art world. She'll have nothing left when Ryan dumps her, which he will, the moment things get difficult." The meeting continued for hours, coordinating testimonies and evidence. David had prepared for everything: legal representation for victims, documentation for investigators, media strategy for maximum impact. Jerome Walsh arrived as the meeting concluded. The art critic's reputation for brutal honesty made him perfect for exposing Ryan's schemes. "I've reviewed everything," Jerome said, paging through his notes. "It's devastating. The stolen artwork angle gives us the hook, but the financial fraud will destroy him. My editor's running it as next month's cover story. We need the timing to be perfect," David insisted. "Everything hits at once: your article, the lawsuits, the SEC complaint. No warning, no chance for him to hide assets or destroy evidence. He destroyed my career." Amanda's voice shook with emotion. "Made me think I was worthless. Other galleries wouldn't even look at my work after he blacklisted me." "Tell me about that." Jerome pulled out his recorder. Every detail. For the next week, David coordinated final preparations. His lawyer filed paperwork under seal. Sandra transferred copies of gallery records to investigators. Parents prepared statements about their children's stolen artwork. The article came together piece by piece. Jerome interviewed dozens of victims, building an irrefutable case against Ryan Cooper's empire of manipulation. Draft copies arrived at David's office. The title blazed across the cover: "The Art of Deception, Ryan Cooper's Gallery of Lies." The story was devastating. For years, Ryan Cooper has portrayed himself as a champion of emerging artists, discovering hidden talents in small communities. But beneath this carefully crafted image lies a predator who systematically targets vulnerable women, exploits their dreams, and destroys their careers. Cooper's pattern is consistent. He identifies talented female artists, usually teachers or local creators, offering mentorship and opportunities. He seduces them with promises of exhibitions and connections, encourages them to leave their families, then helps them spin their divorce settlements on investing in their careers. Once the money runs out, Cooper discards these women, using his influence to blacklist them from other galleries. His latest victim, former high school teacher Allison Reynolds, added a new twist to the pattern, submitting stolen student artwork as her own, with Cooper's gallery knowingly displaying plagiarized pieces. The article detailed financial improprieties, quoted devastated victims, and exposed Ryan's years of predatory behavior. Sandra's evidence painted a picture of calculated manipulation and fraud. David received a panicked call from Allison the night before publication. "Ryan's acting strange," she blurted. "He's shredding documents, transferring money. Says we need to accelerate our New York plans." "What's happening?" "Karma," David replied simply and hung up. The article hit newsstands on Monday. By Tuesday, Ryan's empire began crumbling. Gallery partners filed lawsuits. Wealthy clients demanded refunds for misattributed pieces. The SEC launched a formal investigation into financial irregularities. Ryan's response was predictable. He threw Allison under the bus. "I was deceived about the artwork's origins," he claimed in a press statement. "Had I known Mrs. Reynolds was submitting stolen student work, I never would have displayed it. I'm horrified by this breach of trust." Allison watched helplessly as her dreams imploded. Ryan cut all contact, his lawyer informing her that any association would prejudice his defense. The exhibition opportunities vanished. The New York plans evaporated. She tried calling David again. "Please," she begged. "You have to help me. Ryan's abandoned me. The school board's reviewing my license. I'll lose everything." "You already lost everything," David reminded her. "The day you chose him over 15 years of marriage. The day you stole from children who trusted you. This is just you finally facing consequences." He hung up as Sandra texted. "Ryan's partners are forcing him out. SEC froze gallery accounts." "It's happening." David allowed himself a small smile. Phase 1 of justice was complete. Time for family justice to begin. The Parker family's Sunday dinner tradition had continued despite the scandal, though Allison's seat remained conspicuously empty. Grace Parker moved efficiently through her kitchen, preparing the meal while William sat in his study, reviewing case files. "She's here," Grace called out, her voice tight with tension. Allison walked in, designer clothes now wrinkled, dark circles under her eyes. She froze when she saw the dining room table. Beside each place setting lay a folder containing evidence of her deceptions, stolen artwork, manipulated portfolios, cruel messages about her family. "Sit down," William commanded, using his courtroom voice. "Daddy, I can explain." "Sit
Down.
Grace placed the final evidence piece at the center of the table. Katie Chin's original artwork beside Allison's copied version. The similarities were undeniable, down to the distinctive brushstrokes. "We raised you better than this." Grace's voice cracked with emotion. "That boy who fixes cars has more integrity in his grease-stained hands than you have in your whole body." "It's not what you think," Allison protested. "I was helping my students get exposure." "By stealing their work?" William slammed his hand on the table. "By passing off their talent as your own? The same talent you mocked as provincial to that con man?" Allison's face paled. "How did you?" "David shared everything," Grace cut in. "Every message, every lie, every cruel word you said about us while plotting your grand escape to New York." William opened one of the folders. "Let's discuss your legal situation. The school board's reviewing your license. 3 families are filing civil suits. The gallery's facing investigation for knowingly displaying stolen work. Ryan said he'd handle." "Ryan Cooper," William's laugh was bitter, "is currently negotiating with federal investigators. Apparently, he's willing to testify about the plagiarized artwork scheme in exchange for leniency on his financial crimes." Tears streamed down Allison's face. "I didn't know. He promised me." "He promised you everything," Grace interrupted. "And you believed him because it was easier than appreciating what you had. A husband who worked overtime to fund your dreams. A family who supported you through depression and loss. Students who trusted you with their talents." William stood, lawyer mode fully engaged. "I've arranged counsel for your former students. Peter Chun specializes in intellectual property theft. He's quite good. Used to argue cases before me. You're helping them sue me?" Allison's voice rose hysterically. "I'm your daughter." "Are you?" Grace placed her hands on the table, leaning forward. "My daughter valued integrity. My daughter understood responsibility. My daughter would never steal from children or betray a man who loved her completely. The woman sitting here," William added, "is a stranger wearing our daughter's face. What do you want from me?" Allison whispered. "Want?" Grace laughed harshly. "We wanted you to be the person we thought we raised. We wanted you to honor your marriage vows. We wanted you to be worthy of the trust your students placed in you." William gathered the evidence folders. "These copies go to the lawyers tomorrow. I've also written character witness statements for both the licensing board and the civil suits, detailed accounts of how you admitted to knowingly stealing student work." "You can't do this to me." "You did this to yourself," Grace corrected. "Every choice, every lie, every betrayal. Those were your decisions. Where am I supposed to go?" "Ryan's cut me off. The school suspended me. All my gallery contacts have disappeared." "That's not our concern anymore." William headed for his study. "You chose your path, Allison.
Now walk it alone."
After she left, Grace collapsed into her chair. "Was that too harsh?" "No." William pulled his wife close. "That was justice." 1 year later, David's auto shop had expanded. The repair bays were full, 3 new mechanics hired to handle the increased business. In the front office, Katie Chun managed the schedule with quiet efficiency, balancing work hours with her art school applications. "Mr. Reynolds?" Katie called out. The community college called about next semester's vocational program. David rolled out from under a Chevrolet. "Tell them I'll teach 2 sections instead of 1. The last class had a waiting list. Teaching auto repair hadn't been part of his plan, but the local vocational school had been persistent. Now, twice a week, he taught students who genuinely wanted to learn. Their enthusiasm reminded him daily that true talent didn't need manipulation or lies to shine. The bell chimed as Sandra Cooper entered. After Ryan's downfall, she'd reinvented herself, using her portion of the gallery settlement to open a small art supply store. "Thought you'd want to see this." She handed David a newspaper. Ryan's plea deal finalized. 3 years federal time, full restitution to gallery partners. And Allison? Still working reception at that dental office across town. Teaching license permanently revoked. No gallery will touch her after the plagiarism scandal. David nodded, unsurprised. He'd heard through Megan that Allison had tried submitting artwork to smaller galleries under a pseudonym, but the art community's memory was long. The shop phone rang. Katie answered, then held out the receiver. "It's Grace Parker. Says it's about Sunday dinner." The Parker family gatherings had continued, with David retaining his place at the table. William had finally processed his daughter's betrayal, channeling his pain into helping her victims seek legal redress. Grace had emerged stronger, focusing her maternal instincts on the students Allison had wronged. "David," Grace's voice carried warmth. "We're doing a special dinner this Sunday. Katie's celebrating her art school acceptance. I'll be there." After hanging up, David walked through his expanded shop. The newest bay housed specialty tools purchased with his portion of the civil settlement. Ryan's fall had yielded unexpected dividends, financial compensation for the gallery deposit theft, professional vindication for his warnings about the artwork fraud. Katie looked up from her desk. "Almost forgot. This came for you." She handed him a large envelope. Inside was her latest artwork, an abstract piece capturing the interplay of light and shadow in the repair shop. The note attached read, "To the person who taught me integrity is the greatest masterpiece." David hung the painting in his office, opposite the wall of certification licenses. Each morning, it reminded him that justice, like art, required patience, precision, and unwavering commitment to truth. The shop bell rang again. A young woman entered, clutching an art portfolio. "Mr. Reynolds? I'm Amanda Torres' sister. She said you might be hiring." David gestured to Katie. "Show her the application. We can always use talented people here." As he returned to work, David passed the empty storefront that was supposed to be Allison's gallery. The "For Lease" sign had weathered over the year, much like his anger had weathered into something calmer, cleaner. He felt no satisfaction in Allison's downfall, no joy in Ryan's imprisonment. Justice wasn't about pleasure, it was about restoration. The students had their recognition. The victims had their compensation. The truth had its day in court. David Reynolds had emerged from betrayal not just intact, but stronger. His business thrived. His chosen family grew. His integrity, tested by fire, had proven unbreakable. The evening sun caught Katie's painting, highlighting the interplay of darkness and light. In the end, that's what justice was. Not the absence of darkness, but the triumph of light. Not the destruction of the guilty, but the vindication of the innocent. David picked up his wrench and returned to work. There were cars to fix, students to teach, and a future to build. The past could keep its shadows. He had chosen the light. Epilogue. 5 years later. The Reynolds Automotive Technical Institute occupied what had once been a defunct shopping center on the outskirts of town. David watched from his office as students filtered into the modern training facility, their eager voices echoing through the high-ceilinged space. "Mr. Reynolds?" His assistant, Marie, appeared at the door. "The Board of Trustees meeting is in 10 minutes. And Katie Chan called. She's flying in next week to discuss the scholarship program." David nodded, gathering his materials. The institute had grown beyond his wildest expectations: 6 full-time instructors, state-of-the-art equipment, and a waiting list that stretched months. They'd even added an art program, teaching automotive design and custom paint techniques. Katie had been instrumental in that development. After graduating from art school with honors, she'd returned to help establish the creative division. Her success story, the student whose stolen artwork had exposed Allison's fraud, had become part of the Institute's origin legend. The scholarship program had been Katie's idea. "For students who need a second chance," she'd explained. "People like Amanda Torres, who lost everything to predators like Ryan Cooper." Amanda herself had rebuilt her life, managing Sandra Cooper's thriving art supply store. After Ryan's conviction, she'd slowly returned to painting, hosting small shows in the store's gallery space. Her work, once dismissed by Ryan as derivative, now commanded respectable prices. Sandra had divorced Ryan during his 3rd year in federal prison, rebuilding her life from the ashes of his fraud. Her testimony had been crucial in the SEC investigation, leading to the recovery of millions in embezzled funds. The art supply store, launched with her portion of the settlement, had become a hub for local artists. The story of Ryan Cooper's downfall had rippled through the art world, prompting investigations of similar schemes across the country. His 3-year sentence had stretched to 5 when additional financial crimes came to light. Released 6 months ago, he'd fled to Florida, where he worked as a sales clerk in a tourist gift shop, his name too toxic for anyone in the art world to touch. Allison's fall had been equally complete. The dental office had fired her after too many patients recognized her from the plagiarism scandal. She drifted through a series of receptionist jobs, each ending when her history surfaced. Last David heard, she was living in a studio apartment in the next state, working under her mother's maiden name to avoid recognition. She tried reaching out once more, 2 years after the divorce. David had been teaching a class when she appeared at the institute. "Just 5 minutes," she'd begged. "I need closure." David had looked at her, seeing not his wife of 15 years, but a stranger who'd chosen lies over loyalty. Closure. He gestured to the students learning honest trades. "This is closure. Every student who succeeds here, every person who rebuilds their life after people like you and Ryan tried to destroy them, that's closure." The Parker family had healed in their own way. William had channeled his pain into advocacy, establishing a legal aid fund for victims of artistic fraud. Grace had become a mentor to young artists, hosting workshops in Sandra's store. Their Sunday dinners continued, though in a different home now. David had sold the house he'd shared with Allison, unable to reconcile its memories with the truth he'd discovered. His new place, a renovated farmhouse with a massive garage workshop, better suited the man he'd become. Megan had organized that first exhibition of student artwork, showcasing the true creators of pieces Allison had claimed. The show's success led to an annual event, celebrating emerging artists from local schools. She'd eventually marry Tommy, David's former apprentice who now served as the Institute's head instructor. The Institute's board meeting focused on expansion plans. 5 years of success had brought offers to establish satellite campuses in neighboring states. David listened to proposals, remembering his own journey from betrayed husband to respected educator. After the meeting, he drove to the Parkers for the monthly family dinner. Grace had adapted the tradition, expanding it to include those who'd become family through choice rather than blood. Katie was there when she wasn't traveling for her art career. Sandra often attended, bringing Amanda and other survivors of Ryan's schemes. "Did you see this?" William asked during dinner, sliding over a newspaper. A small article detailed Ryan Cooper's latest humiliation, fired from the gift shop for stealing from the register. "Some people never change," Grace observed, passing the potatoes to Sandra. "But some do," Sandra replied, gesturing around the table. "Look at us." David surveyed the gathering. Katie discussing art techniques with Amanda. Megan and Tommy arguing playfully about carburetor designs. William and Grace hosting the family they'd chosen rather than the daughter they'd lost. Later that evening, David walked through the Institute's empty halls. Student artwork lined the walls, automotive designs, custom paint concepts, technical drawings. In the center hung Katie's original piece, the one Allison had stolen, now framed with a plaque telling its story. His phone buzzed with a text from Marie. "Just heard from the art therapy program. 3 more of Ryan's victims signed up for classes next semester." David smiled. The Institute had become more than a technical school. It was a place of redemption, where people rebuilt lives shattered by betrayal. Every student who graduated, every victim who reclaimed their creativity, was a testament to the power of truth over lies, integrity over manipulation. The security system beeped, reminding him to leave. As he walked to his car, David passed the building that had once been Ryan's gallery. It now housed a community arts center, its windows bright with student displays. The for lease sign that had hung there for so long was gone, replaced by a banner announcing free art classes for local youth. 5 years had transformed more than buildings. The betrayal that could have destroyed him had instead forged something stronger. David had built success from sincerity, created opportunity from honesty, found family in the aftermath of betrayal. His phone buzzed again, a message from Katie with photos of her latest exhibition. The final image showed her newest piece, a complex interplay of automotive parts and artistic elements, titled Integrity's Engine. David drove home under a sky bright with stars, the Institute's lights fading behind him. Tomorrow would bring new students, new challenges, New opportunities to prove that success built on truth would always outlast empires built on lies. The past had taught its lessons. The present offered its rewards. And the future? The future belonged to those who dared to rebuild, to rise, to choose truth over convenient lies. David Reynolds had made that choice 5 years ago, standing in the wreckage of his marriage. Every day since had proved its wisdom, and every tomorrow promised to do the same. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.